It's not just you. The color as seen through Apple Vision Pro is a bit off. I spent some time gathering information and figuring out what it means for photographers or anyone who cares about color accuracy. Here we go. The first reference I heard to the color being a bit questionable was in Joanna Stern's pre-launch video review of Apple Vision Pro. Once I got my unit, I noticed that things weren't quite right, and so I wanted to figure out what that means for photography, both as someone wearing the device, but also as someone who might want to make images with the device's cameras, and otherwise use the device to edit or work with photos. In theory, we would want the photos captured by the Vision Pro to be color accurate, and we'd also want it to be color accurate as I look through the screen with the pass-through view to see the world in front of me. In a perfect world, what I'm seeing through the device is exactly the same as what I would see if I wasn't wearing it at all. We'd also hope that if we're using Apple Vision Pro as a virtual display for a Mac, the color should be accurate so that we can perform accurate adjustments in Photoshop, Lightroom, or whatever our photo editor of choice is. It is interesting to note that Apple Photos on the Vision Pro, at least in version 1.0, does not include native editing tools. I don't remember everything I learned in school, but one of the things I learned is that when you're doing an experiment, you should have a control to compare with the unknown. I think the iPhone 15 Pro Max is a fantastic control. It showcases the best of what Apple's capable of doing with its camera technology and its computational photography systems. So here's what my setup looks like. I have the X-Rite Color Checker Passport stuck up there on a light stand, and I'm using the new Stallman clamp from Tyler Stallman that I got to mount my iPhone 15 Pro Max. For the Vision Pro photos, I'm going to stand just behind the Stallman clamp for comparison. Now, we're all working in the sRGB color space here. I'm not testing this under multiple lighting conditions, but my goal is to identify if there's something off with the color as I look through the device, and if it's going to impact using Apple Vision Pro for photographic work. I wanted to get a photo of what it looks like looking through the camera view on the iPhone, looking through the pass-through viewfinder on the Vision Pro, and then obviously the photos that have been captured on both the iPhone and the Vision Pro. So let's start by taking a look at what we saw both through the figurative viewfinder as well as the resulting photo from the iPhone 15 Pro Max. As you can see, on the left I have the photo, on the right I have the view as seen through the electronic viewfinder of the iPhone camera. And in looking at them, you can see that they're pretty close. I can see that the photo itself on the left appears to be a little brighter than the one on the right. But let's take a look at a few of the color examples. You'll see here in Photoshop, I've got the color panel up on the right above my picture-in-picture head. If I make sure I've got my eyedropper tool selected, I'm going to do an 11 by 11 average. So if I pick this red right here, you're going to see that over in the color panel, I'm at 255, 86, 74. That's red, green, blue. 255, 86, 74. When I click that same red in the camera viewfinder, I'm at 239, 85, 71. So little less saturated, just a hair. Generally looks about the same to the naked eye. I'm going to go over here on the left-hand side, pick another one. I'm going to pick this kind of lime green over on the left side of the Passport, which gives me RGB values of 26, 243, and 100. I'm going to now go pick the same one over here on the right-hand side to get 45, 226, and 99. So once again, really close. And that one, looking at the green values, it's got the same level of green saturation. And to the naked eye, as we look at these are pretty close. All right. Now I have the two images as captured by the Vision Pro. On the left, I have the photo that was captured. On the right, I have the view looking through the pass-through and what I saw as I captured that image. Now, the first thing that you're going to see is that obviously the field of view is quite different than the iPhone, which I had a bit zoomed in. You can see the iPhone right there in the picture, actually. But let's crop in. So I'm going to show you a cropped view of both of these images. Now, I've done nothing here other than change the crop. And now we have that cropped view, and so let's take a look at our colors. So I'm going to actually zoom in just a hair on each of these photos so I can make a better selection here. So as I zoomed in, we're now more than 100%. We're at 200%. Things getting a little fuzzy, but let's grab my eyedropper tool. Let's take a look at that red first in the Vision Pro photo where, you know, I'm remembering that my value for red with the iPhone was 255. It was fully saturated on the red channel of the RGB. So looking at RGB here, I'm at 137, 49, 41. If I go over to the, looking through the viewfinder, the pass through, oops, sorry, get a good selection right there in the middle, 153, 50, 36. So again, things are not quite as saturated here. They're not quite as bright. Let's go over and look at the green. Now you'll notice I've changed my sample size to a 5x5 to make sure I don't get anything other than the color here. I'm getting 41, 113, 61. Again, not very saturated in the green for this green splotch. I'm going to go pick this one over here, 42, 125, 74. A little bit more saturation, a little bit, brighter on the pass-through as I'm looking at it than in the captured image. As you can see, I have now brought back the two iPhone photos. They're up on top. The Vision Pro photos down below, still the cropped-in view. Let me just move this so we got the color picker all the way into the frame and not obscured by my big fat head. So as you can see, definitely a brightness difference between the two. When we look at the color values as far as what's accurate as to what my naked eye sees, anecdotally, I would say that the photo from the iPhone is perhaps a little overexposed, a little bright. The passing through the iPhone camera viewfinder shot, the one that's in the upper right as we look right now, probably looks most natural to me. And the Vision Pro ones are just suffering from some underexposure issues here. I will say on the iPhone, I don't have any picture modes applied or picture styles. This is just the default iPhone camera. So there's nothing been explicitly changed by me in post-processing. As I said, other than the crop on the two Vision Pro images, these are all straight out of camera with the default Apple processing. So the last scenario I want to examine is how does it look when I use the Vision Pro as a virtual display for my Mac? So if I'm running Photoshop or another editing program on my Mac and I'm using the built-in headset displays to project a virtual screen in front of me, is that color accurate? Is it good enough for editing? Let's find out. So I really could do this with any set of photos, but I'm going to use these iPhone images again because they've got good color. I've got the color checker passport in there. And now I'm going to switch over to creating a virtual display with the Vision Pro headset. Okay, you should now be able to see Photoshop in the virtual display on my headset. I have the moon environment around me, so you're not seeing, the mess that's in my office behind this virtual display. But what you are seeing is our two photos side by side, heads up here in Photoshop. And I'm now using my Mac trackpad to control what you are seeing. So what you see, I can just tell you anecdotally what I'm seeing, what you're probably seeing, hopefully, is that the color here is pretty darn accurate. And if I go grab, I'm trying to be relatively steady with my head. If I grab my eyedropper tool and I come over and I pick out, for example, that bright red, you can see, or you can hopefully see the color values. I get 255, 85, 74. This is all happening on the Mac. The color values itself obviously haven't changed because it's still Photoshop on the Mac rendering the same image. So the fact that the display has changed does not change the color values you're going to see in the picker. What you are seeing instead is the fact that these colors are accurate. So even though there's a little bit of a color shift when looking through the Vision Pro at the outside world, that color shift is not present when the Vision Pro is working as a virtual display for your Mac. So here's what I've learned. I'm not going to want to capture photos where I care about realistic color with Apple Vision Pro, at least not in its current state. It's possible this might change with software enhancements, or it's hard to say what is actually a hardware situation. The ability to capture 3D spatial photos is neat. I made a photo last night as I was playing tug of war with my dog with a rope toy, and it's fun to see that. But the color's just not really up to snuff for regular photos. When it comes to working with images on the device, however, the screens are great and they reproduce the images using accurate colors. So this is going to serve me well, both to use the Apple Vision Pro as a virtual display for my Mac or for performing edits with our eyes and my gestures like you can do with Photoshop Lightroom. I'm going to drop a link to that video up above and you can click through and see how that works. If you're interested in learning more about photographic adventures with the Vision Pro, be sure to subscribe to the channel with that button down below. And of course, like this video if you found it interesting. Tell your friends, go shout from the rooftops that they can come on back because I'll be back again with more tech photo information soon. Until then, take care.